this computer. Hello, and welcome to this edition of COVID Ethics Update, a service of the Center for Practical Bioethics. We appreciate your joining us. I'm Cindy Leyland, and I work at the Center for Practical Bioethics. Today, I'm talking with Julie Boudreau, who is the Executive Director of the John and Juana Harmon Foundation. The Harmon Foundation funds the Center's project, Advanced Care Planning for African Americans, which is our effort to increase the participation of African Americans in the process of advanced care planning. But today, Julie, we are talking about the response of philanthropy to the pandemic that we are all facing. So Julie, what can you tell us about the response in general of philanthropy to the pandemic?
Thank you, Cindy. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate being invited to offer my perspective. I will preface everything by saying I'm relatively new to philanthropy. It's been about 5 years for me. My background professionally is public health, and so I bring a strong programmatic influence into the way I see things. But I'm fortunate that our foundation belongs to a number of philanthropic organizations, and as a result of that membership, the communication networks that come with that membership, I've seen just the most, for me, moving and profound outpouring of response by these membership philanthropic organizations. And to be more specific, I am seeing within days gatherings of funders to get together to talk about what can we do right now to be of service. Clearly, there's a call to action. The desire to move, to step forward into the space and understand how we can best help fill gaps and meet needs was immediate and dramatic. And I frankly have been quite moved by that, because there's a reputation sometimes of philanthropy being a little detached and sort of in a protected space, understandably. So I would describe the response as swift and humble, in the sense of we don't know what the right thing is right now, but we're going to start moving. We're going to start taking action. And the first step in that process for many was to immediately contact their grantees and ask, what do you need?
And we very much appreciate that, Julie. As I said, we are one of your grantees, and I can concur. You immediately reached out to us, and that's just amazing that you did that. Tell us about the space that the Harmon Foundation occupies in the world of philanthropy and how that has affected your response.
We are a national funder, even though we're a small family foundation. National in the sense that we support programs that operate at a national level through networks like faith organizations that the center is affiliated with, and so on. However, our founders are from the state of Washington and one in an agricultural area in the Yakima area. And what we decided right away is that we wanted to help the most vulnerable in that community as a first priority in our response to COVID-19. And that's a shift for us, and be willing to move off our mission to do that.
Great. Can you give us, well, you have kind of given us an example, but is there a particular grantee, and you don't need to name names, but is there a particular grantee with whom you've adjusted your approach in a very specific way, or have you already explained that as well as you feel you can?
Well, I would like to say a couple things. I should have mentioned earlier, we fund end-of-life education. And so when I talk about moving off our mission, I mean being willing to, not just willing, but wanting to go to whatever the needs are in the community on the ground, so to speak. And in general, we've adopted the practices that are being adopted by hundreds, if not thousands, of foundations across the nation, which is to remove the barriers, simplify the process. I heard a foundation last week that from contact to money out the door was 3 hours, Cindy, if you can believe that. So that's a lot of removing of steps and administrative process, and these folks, they made it happen.
That is just almost unbelievable.
So we're trying to do that ourselves, and what that looks like for us is getting in touch with people and saying, if you need this money for anything else besides what you originally contracted with us to do, just let us know. Let's have a conversation and see about how we can.
Yeah. Julie, why don't you spend just a minute or two telling us about the mission of the Harmon Foundation? That would be very helpful to us.
Well, it's becoming kind of poignant for us because it is to have pre-crisis conversations about one's end-of-life care wishes for all Americans, and to have that happen so that the important people in one's life know what one wants when there's a medical situation that requires tough decision making. And so our mission, while I've talked about this more immediate community needs piece of our funding, our mission is also rising up very quickly as a key way that we can be of service again in the broader perspective. And so we're quickly making connections with existing partners and others. And one of the huge concerns we have now is the tremendous disparities we're seeing in the death rates associated with COVID, and how the communities of color, probably a lot of public health experts saw this coming because of the long history of care disparities and social pressures on people that make them less able to weather these kinds of events. And I think that's where we're going to be moving next. I have some meetings today to look into that.
Yeah, which leads me to my next question. Anytime a crisis occurs, it does present challenges, and it also presents opportunities. So what opportunities and challenges do you see the pandemic presenting to nonprofits and foundations alike?
I will be frank that today, if you had caught me yesterday, before I watched last night's news, I would have been a little more positive. Today, I'm quite shaken by some of the things I'm seeing in Chicago and Louisiana. But I'll try to tap into the positive, which is, I think, the simplification of process. And I think the humility across the board of none of us knows exactly what's right to do next, but we do know that we have to step forward and we have to do our best and we have to trust our instincts. And so I think on the philanthropy side, hopefully it'll be an enduring commitment to simplification and to having a more equal relationship with those we partner with. And for nonprofits, I just think they're terribly hard hit by this. And I hope that that there's more recognition of the crucial role they play in their communities, and how it's time to prioritize that. And instead of it being a stopgap to fund this program or that program, that as a nation, we will say, for heaven's sakes, we need to support our communities. We need to support our citizens. Let's find a way to make this happen in a more coordinated and sustained fashion.
Excellent. So Julie, one of the things that has everyone so frightened is the market volatility, and people who are fortunate enough to have a 401k, of course, they're frightened because their balances are going way down. Well, foundations have 401ks as well. What's the response among foundations about the balance of their 401ks? How are they handling that?
Our investment funds are, of course, taking a hit. And I think that what we see here is that, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself now, I'm not necessarily representing my board, but I do know that philosophically, foundations have an opportunity to say, are we going to, you know, hunker down with what we have and wait for it to get bigger later so we can think about funding something after this crisis passes? Or what can we say, this is the rainy day we've been waiting for and it's time to step forward? You hear these things, you hear if not when, now, and some other of these sayings that are coming forward. And my hope is that most, if not all, foundations will realize that resources are only as good as the overall wellness and health of our nation, and this is the time to open up and start providing resources. So I hope that's I've seen some fantastic things happening, and including with some very big foundations, and that's given me some nationally well-known ones. So that's given me encouragement.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. In many of the community engagement efforts that we continue to promote through the center, and we're doing it via Zoom, one of the questions that we keep asking in our Zoom meetings is, what are you most grateful for during this time? So I would like to ask that of you, because I know that you are under pressure. So please tell me, what are you grateful for during this frightening time?
Thank you, Cindy. By far, it's the networks we've established and are part of, and the groups I mentioned earlier of philanthropy groups, but also feeling connected to our partners who are doing the work, such as the work the center is doing and some of our other grantees, that we can reach out to one another and touch base, and we do frequently, and connect. I'm most grateful for those relationships right now.
Julie, thank you so very much. We are very grateful for you and for the Harmon Foundation, and we thank you for spending time with us today. We thank all of you for joining us for this edition of COVID Ethics Update, a service of the Center for Practical Bioethics. If you have questions, ideas, comments, or suggestions for future editions, we ask that you email us at covid@practicalbioethics.org. You can subscribe to the Center's YouTube channel and sign up to receive the COVID Ethics Update in your inbox at our website, practicalbioethics.org. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Please be safe and stay well.